I'm Tuomas Kuusniemi and welcome to my research log. It's the 12th of September 2018. I had a meeting with my supervisors or advisors, really, today, and we're trying to fine-tune my topic about Nexus analysis. Because, as I pointed out earlier in the video that I posted like a short time ago before this one, it's a rather nebulous field, and it has lots of extensions into all sorts of directions. So for the purposes of a master's thesis, which is like 60 to 80 pages, then you have to keep it manageable. So you have to narrow down into something relevant or, well, condensed. Precise is the word I'm looking for here. Now, I've gone through the 12 hours of footage that we had that we filmed about a year ago, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, including character creation, a bit of adventure, and 2 sessions of adventuring. And I made lots of notes, and now I've got notes about anything that involved a clarification or an improvised ruling or that sort of thing. I've been looking at questions like how do you negotiate rules during a game as opposed to before the game, when you can rely more on the text. So I'm, for instance, looking for rulings, or anytime when someone asks about a rule or what rule should be applied in a given situation. Also, I've been looking at about clarifications about the game world. That questions like, is there a bucket anywhere nearby? Buckets haven't been drawn out or on a map or haven't been mentioned, but it would be reasonable to expect that a stables would have buckets. So it's a perfectly valid question. So I've been looking at these situations where you negotiate rules or the game world and how you do it, and, well, haven't gone into the how yet or the why, because it's way too early for that. But I've got notes on all of that, and now I'm looking to narrow down on something something manageable and workable. My first attempt at a master's thesis 13 years ago, I had it was about the messianic hero in Frank Herbert's Dune and Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. That was over 3,000 pages of material, of sheer corpus, as opposed to all these sources and so on. So that was way too huge. So I've learned from that and now try to take a bite-sized bit and chew on it carefully. Depth as opposed to width, I suppose. Today there was a breakthrough is a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm sort of starting to narrow in because of this meeting with my advisors. I'm starting to zero in on the topic of game worlds and how to negotiate the game world. Of course, the rules bit will be part of that, because they partly define it and especially define what and how you can have your character behave in that game world, and how you as player or participant can interact with it. Now, I've been given literature recommendations, which I'll be diving into, and that'll be probably next week. I'll be talking about those of findings that I've made, or things that I've noticed. But now, role-playing games are, when it comes to surroundings, or the world, or the environment in which you are doing what you're doing, it gets complicated. Because in addition to the physical space and the interaction between the players as people, in addition to that, there is the negotiation of the game itself, of the game events, which are not like, they don't have a physical form. They're in our imaginations, and we're trying to sync up our imaginations to a degree where we can find a consensus about what is in the world, so we can make meaningful choices and portray meaningful consequences, so that it doesn't devolve into sort of a questions and answers thing, where you're trying to guess what the other people are imagining. Role-playing games do that surprisingly well. This formulation of a shared world that emerges from the interaction between the players, and then keeps evolving, sort of gets retconned every once in a while. It's sort of in the field of role-playing games, tabletop role-playing, pen and paper role-playing is sort of special in this regard, compared to, for instance, live-action role-play. Because in a LARP, time is pretty linear thing. It continues at a constant pace. You might jump ahead or so on. You can have flashbacks and so on, but you can't just go the way you can in a pen and paper role-playing game. Goes, oh, there's this, I'd like to explore this now. Can we stop everything else and focus on this? This is interesting. So there's that flexibility, and you can sort of play it out inside one person's mind, and then simultaneously play it, or after that return to the same situation from someone else's perspective, and the previous player can still participate in the emergent narrative, and possibly you can even change what happened earlier so that it fits a more interesting or more logical, or for some reason more appealing, well, narrative. I'm trying to avoid the term story, because a story has a fixed sort of sense to it, an intent, a plan. As every game master knows, no plan ever survives contact with players, and that is as it should be. That's why we play the game. If we wanted to write a story, we'd just bloody well write a story, or just tell a story. That would be perfectly valid. But that's not what we do. So I'll be looking at places. I'll be looking at the physical space in which the players are, and then the game world sort of mindscape, or the. I may have to come up with a term for that. I'm not sure. I'll have to see what there's in the literature about this. But yeah, because I've always been fascinated by how those two interact, and how the world is created in response to people's interests. Because we never really describe every single detail in a in a role-playing game session, because that's way too much. We have to concentrate on the relevant issues. We have to concentrate on what is important to the people around the table. And everyone has a part in it. It seems to me, at this point at least, that much of the world simply doesn't exist until someone asks about it. What a game master can do, for instance, is set up a scene and give a very generalized description about what's there, and then players or people who do not have that narrative authority at the moment decide to interact with it. And to do that, they will ask questions that flesh it out. Because no one really wants to listen to to 15 minutes of exposition on the decor of a bedroom. Because that's a sort of a violation of player agency, or sort of player characters see the world in different ways. They have different backgrounds. They are performing the emanations of different discourses, as the literature would put it. And they would notice different things. And it is up to the player, therefore, to express that emanation of player character background and direct the spotlight of attention into stuff that character would want to know about. Lots of player agency stuff, lots of game master sort of limitations and that sort of thing. It is an interesting thing to study Dungeons and Dragons here, which has a very long tradition behind it. It has a very large presence in the hobby, and it's sort of colored things a certain way, and it is also very much a game master focused system where a game master has a very certain sort of role and certain responsibilities that differ from everyone else. So we've got these authority issues there as well to look at. But yeah, that was actually useful. This is working brilliantly. Wonderful. Because I have to watch this again when I edit this. Then I can write notes about what I said, because I might not remember them otherwise. So thank you very much, and thanks for watching. If this was interesting, I know I'm like at the moment my terminology is iffy, and also I'm not sure where these videos will end up in terms of register, and what sort of words I will be using. What ultimately it will be whatever serves me best in this situation. If, however, you'd want me to come at a different angle or use more approachable language at any point, then please drop me a line in the comments so I can know, because that itself could be very useful to me to sort of distance myself from the from the lingo, from the research tradition, especially once I get deeper into the topic. Then I think that will be sort of necessary at some point to come up with common language explanations that do not rely on terms and definitions that might be very very specific to the field. Because I've already encountered a difficulty with the term interaction order, because I'm using the field guide to mediated Nexus Analysis, a practical field guide for mediated discourse analysis by Ron Scollon and Susie Wong Scollon. And like they use the term interaction order without really defining it, because it's such a basic term to them. Wasn't for me, but I'm afraid I'll get there, and at that point I'm hoping you'll sort of help me drag myself out of it. And also, if someone wants me to do a video in Finnish at some point about these, then please do drop me a line. So I will do so, time and energy and fate permitting. But that is all for now. I'm going to hit the books, looking at Discourses in Place by the aforementioned Scollons, who seem to be everywhere in this field. And I'll see you next time. Until then, game on.